well. We are still waiting for a few, but because I want to honor everyone's time, I want to go ahead and we'll go ahead and get started. And as people join, they can just catch up. And just so everyone knows, you were notified as soon as you logged on, but this is being recorded. So if folks join us later, they can also catch up on what they missed on the recorded session. And we're also doing this so future wardens can kind of see what we talked about. So first of all, I want you to know I have spotlighted our 3 wardens who agreed to be my panel, but we are going to kind of share information amongst all of us. But I did want you to see our spotlighted presenters as well. So first, I will just say hello. My name is Emily Davenport. If you've not met me, my name, is Emily. I've got a dog who won't leave me alone right now. Sorry, she can't decide if she wants to be in the room or out. There, she wants to say hi. This is Roxy. I am Bishop Bruce's assistant. I have been with the diocese, this December will be 9 years. And prior to working for the diocese, I actually worked for one of our churches, St. Andrew's here in Kansas City, for about 12 years. So I do have some parish experience. I was the director of communications, so I don't know all that you do. But when I say that I kind of get where you're coming from on a parish level, I really do, because I was there with you guys for 12 years. And so that's me. Basically, the goal of this presentation is, like I said, for the recorded, it's the same purpose, to provide current and future wardens with information and tools to help you do your job. And so that being said, I would like to go now to our presenters. Again, we're doing this kind of in a panel fashion, so I'm just going to present questions and then we'll chat. So first on my screen is Tish. Tish, can you say hello, introduce yourself, let them know what church you're at and your role?
Hey, I am Tish Bryce. I live in Kimberling City. I belong to St. Mark's Episcopal Church in Kimberling City. And I've been a member there for, 20 some years. I'm probably the oldest current member of the church, not only by age, but by tenure. And I have been the senior warden for several years, so I'll talk about that later on.
Perfect, thank you. And the next on my screen is Gordon.
Hi, my name is Gordon G. I am currently the senior warden at St. Paul's in Kansas City. And I've been functioning as that since 2017. And this is my last year.
Good luck.
Oh, I know that story too. So thanks, Gordon. And next in our spotlight is Regina.
Hi, I'm Regina Behrens. I am the vestry warden at St. Mary Magdalene in Belton. I've been a parishioner there for 15 years. This is my first year as vestry warden, but previously I served on the vestry, and I was also on a vestry at a church in the Diocese of Newark, New Jersey a while ago.
Perfect, thank you. And I forgot to mention, we're going to talk about both bishops wardens and senior wardens. And that's a piece that I didn't understand until I came to the diocese. Some of our churches are considered parishes and some are congregations. Our parishes have vestries and thusly have senior wardens, and the others have bishops committees and thusly have a bishop's warden. For the most part, at least as I understand it, they hold very similar roles. And that's why we have a sampling of both bishops, wardens, and senior wardens for the vestries. So I wanted to point that out as well for those who maybe didn't know the difference. So the first question that I have, and again, just like with the introductions, I'm going to just kind of go to Tish and then Gordon and then Regina. Can you tell us a couple of things that you wish you knew before you had become a warden? So Tish, I'll have you go first, please.
Okay. As I said, I'd let you know how long I have been senior warden. This is actually my 6th year, and I'm hoping to retire this year. But I guess when I was first asked to be bishop's warden, my priest, Mother Ann, said, well, it will only be for 1 year. So I guess I would have wished that I knew it was going to extend out for this period of time. The other things, what I really wish I had known, I had been on the vestry for a while at St. Mark's. I had served on the vestry at All Saints before we retired and moved to the lake. So I felt like I sort of knew what was going on and what the bishop or the warden's responsibilities were. I guess I just wished I had paid a little closer attention and knew more specifically each person's responsibilities and the systems that they worked with and that sort of thing. And I can explain some of that more later on too.
Perfect. Thank you. Next, Gordon, what do you wish you knew before you became a warden?
Well, like Tish, this is my 6th year, but I am done at the end of the year because St. Paul's bylaws require that you move off after 2 3-year terms. But the point, when we were talking about this question before, and the point I feel is important to know as a senior warden is do not be surprised when you have to deal with the unexpected.
Exactly.
And I hope for anybody that's about to be a senior warden or is currently a senior warden and maybe hopefully has just started recently, I will tell you that it was not expected that when I started as a senior warden 6 years ago, that our rector would retire in 2018 in my 2nd year. And the attendant responsibilities of the senior warden all of a sudden changed a whole lot. All I remember is we had a very nice going away event for our rector, and Bishop Fields and the canon were there, and he came up and walked up to me and said, well, now you're in charge of the church. And I looked around and said, who are you talking to? And I had no concept. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. And then kind of to top it off, as we were beginning to implement the search process, we became, as you all know, confronted by a pandemic that caused us to, in our situation, to close our church to in-person Sunday services. So I just say, be ready for the unexpected, but I don't think this will happen again for another 100 years, hopefully.
Hopefully, indeed. Indeed, yeah. And that is something that we all definitely got slapped in the face with as the pandemic hit, is what do we do now? And we all scrambled. And so, yeah, I get that. Gosh. Okay, how about you, Regina? What do you wish you knew when you became warden?
First of all, I think when you're talking to anyone about becoming warden or serving on the vestry, they need to know, okay, you're going to have to do more than just attend or run meetings.
Yes.
You find out, oh, you're vestry warden, that means automatically you are a member of the finance committee. And you do have to go to things like this. You will need diversity training, et cetera. You really, I really wish I would have taken it still, but I think people need to understand the full spectrum of what they're going to be doing, not just running vestry meetings. There's a little bit of work in between. The other is beware of burnout. First of all, I see it in some of our volunteers. We have really great volunteers, but a few times we've had people who just felt used, taken advantage of, no backup. And, it's always assumed, oh, well, if we're going to have an event, this person is going to be there and they're going to set up and they're going to deal with the kitchen or whatever. And we have had people just step away from everything. And I also saw a vestry warden burn out. Basically, we also had a rector resign and, oh, surprise, the vestry's terms are frozen until we find another one. So it's, you know, you're working for a year and a half that wasn't really on the books. And she did a bang up job getting supply priests and keeping it together, but she still attends church, but she doesn't volunteer for anything. So beware of burnout, including your own. The other, and I'm borrowing words from Gary Allman, our communications director, I need to put this together. We don't have it. We need an in case of emergency break glass piece of paper in an envelope for the rector with all of the sign-ons and the passwords, especially admins for everything. Our business manager died and we cannot name new admins to our Facebook page. I've convinced Facebook she died and we still can't name any new people to manage it because we can't name a new admin. And I'm not looking forward to trying to remember all of the sign-ons and the access that we have and all the people I need to ask and making sure they don't change it and forget to tell me, but you really need that and you need to update it.
Yeah.
That is priceless information. Absolutely. I concur on that one. Thank you all. The next question that I have really is kind of an open-ended, and this might be even something that you're not entirely sure of, but it's kind of something to think about and throw out. So how do you share responsibility on your bishop's committee or your vestry? Are the responsibilities of those roles clear? And are there ways that we can help set precedences for those roles? So Tish, how about you?
I would say that we have roles pretty well defined at St. Mark's. The bishop's warden is, of course, immediately under the priest in charge. In years past, we have had a senior warden, although, a junior warden who was responsible for the grounds, but that person resigned. In addition, and I was alluding to part of this earlier when Gordon was talking about expect the unexpected. I had been senior warden about a year and our longtime treasurer died. We did have an assistant treasurer, thank heavens at that time. But she was responsible for purchasing a new software system because the old one that he had been working with was very antiquated and was ready to crash. And so she was an accounting person. She bought a very sophisticated system. If I had that to do over again, I would have been more involved with that process and perhaps encourage her to purchase something that was less sophisticated, because within about 9 months period of time, she moved away. So here we were. I was the only person that could sign checks. I knew nothing about the software system. So the person that we had as junior warden moved over to become the treasurer, and he had to learn this complicated system. So just being more involved with things like that. But and so to answer the question about defined roles, we didn't have someone who was willing to step into the role as junior warden. So we've kind of divided up those responsibilities. I took on most of that responsibility. The treasurer has taken part of it, but I do most of it. Of course, the secretary's roles are well defined, and the at-large people are at large. Gordon was saying that he plans on resigning this year. Our bylaws say also that this is the last year I should be serving. But when the bishop came to visit us the other day, she said, well, you know, we can adjust those bylaws if the need be. So be prepared, Gordon. You might have to adjust your bylaws too.
Just takes a little letter from the bishop's office, I've
That's
heard.
right. I guess that's all that it takes.
Thank you, Tish. How about you? No, you unplug those ears, Gordon.
I didn't hear anything she just said.
No, you had some connectivity issues, right? Okay, well, how about you? You have a vestry, and sometimes I've found that vestries roles, because you have more people, sometimes are
Right.
more easily to find. Do you find that to be pretty easy for you guys, or not so much?
I think we've been very blessed with some very strong members of the vestry. We have 15 vestry members,
Oh.
and there are 5 that are elected for a 3-year term each year. And the most they can serve is 2 3-year terms. And in my business life, I'm a lawyer, and I'm sorry, Tish, they can't change it on me, I don't think. But
Okay.
I will tell you that you can be off 1 year under the bylaws,
Right.
and then you can be brought back for another
Right.
6 years. And we've had some amazing people that have been willing to do a lot and have been on the vestry in the past and then come back on the vestry later. In sharing responsibilities, this is only because it only applies if your rector resigns or is no longer available for whatever reason. You have to set up this is all what I learned after our rector said he would resign and started working with the diocese. And so you have to prepare a parish profile, and you have to have a parish profile committee. And one of the vestry members agreed to serve as the chair of the parish profile committee. And I worked with others to appoint the other members of the parish profile committee. And that was a major job. They did a great job. It took quite a bit of time, but I think it was well worth it. And then once the parish profile is completed, you have to have a search committee. And we had another member of the vestry that served as one of the co-chairs of the search committee, and he did a marvelous job. So in connection with both the parish profile committee and the search committee, basically I had them there. They ran with it. I would be involved when I asked. I would attend meetings when I asked, but they did a marvelous job, and I tip my hat to them, and it's been a wonderful result that we've got now with our new rector. With regard to other responsibilities, we also, I think like Tish, on the vestry, we have some committees and committee chairs, and there's also a different entity, the Ministries Council, and I've chosen to go to those just to learn things. They only meet once a month for about an hour and a half. And there's different, the Altar Guild, ECF, a number of things. And so we also have a treasurer, and the treasurer does not have to be a member of the vestry. Our treasurer currently was a member of the vestry when he agreed to be the treasurer after the treasurer that had been it for several decades basically retired. And he was there, and he's an accountant, so we're very fortunate there. He took over and has continued as the treasurer and attends the vestry meetings. He's also the chair of our finance committee. And on that committee, we have 3 vestry members. And there are other committees where we have people involved, including stewardship and others. So we spread it out. The secretary or clerk of the vestry is a member of the vestry, and the former secretary who just finished her 6 years last year and therefore was no longer eligible. Fortunately, we had another member of the vestry who stood up and said, I will take it over, and are doing it. And so they take the minutes at the vestry meetings. So it's been, there's just all sorts of people that are very supportive, and that's the best thing you can have happen as a senior warden.
Right.
No
It's nice
kidding.
that you have the numbers to choose from too. That's our problem, that we're so limited with the number of people that are willing to serve.
It makes a big difference.
Amen.
It does.
I feel
Regina?
it for you. I don't know what I would have been doing without it.
I bet. Regina, how about you? You feel like the roles are defined, responsibilities shared?
To a certain extent, I am not great at delegating. It was a problem when I was working, and it still is. I've been retired for 8 years. When I think of it, clearly we've got one guy in the vestry who deals with the buildings and grounds issues, and for that I am profoundly grateful, because it's complicated and it is not my area of expertise. And he's got some good people working for him. On the financial side, that's an area where I'm more comfortable. And our treasurer, who is also on the vestry, is a gem. And it runs like clockwork, and I don't have to do much except occasionally sign a check. But when I think about it, I realize there's one person on vestry who rarely participates, rarely talks, and I got to get her to do something. She agreed to be the secretary, and then in the first meeting, she said, okay, my rheumatoid arthritis is acting up. I can't take notes. So-and-so is going to take notes. She has not taken notes since. So-and-so just took it over. And I'm thinking, right now, I really need to have her do something constructive.
Or so-and-so is the secretary.
Yeah.
Oh, that is it.
Emily,
That is hard. Yes, sir.
Emily, I would just add something to what Regina said. And I think this is really, really, really important, unless you happen to be in the business where buildings and grounds are your strong suit, because like Regina, I have no idea what I would be doing if I was in charge of building and grounds. But we did have a junior warden who termed out 2 years ago. And even though he is no longer the junior warden, we refer to him as the junior warden in exile, and he has agreed to continue to serve basically and work on buildings and grounds and hiring of sextons and other items. And he has been a godsend also. So having someone strong and willing to get involved and work with the rector on buildings and grounds is, I don't know, like I said, it's a godsend. And he's doing a great job. And succession, I'm starting to think about in terms of now when I will go off, and also you need to look in terms of when we're going to lose our junior warden in exile.
Yes, and that's something that in our chat, Mary had commented that sounds like it's important to have a succession plan. And that kind of feeds into my next question, really is, do you have a plan in place for transitions? Because we all know you are not intended to hold this role forever and ever. And so is that something that you have thought of, especially like Regina said with that, I wrote it down, in case of emergency, break glass paper. And so is that something, Tish, you have in place, or is that something that could help you guys move forward?
We have some parts of it in place. The computer passwords, that stuff, no. I mean, I know Mother Ann has been working on our Facebook page, so perhaps we'll have some of that ongoing. But I know up to the past year or so, people will say, well, who is our this and who is our that for the computer? And nobody knew. What was our password? Nobody knew what passwords had been used. So no, we don't have things like that. Financially, I think there's enough information in place that we could probably overcome that with the change again. The junior warden stuff, the things that I have tried to compile since I've kind of taken over that is the names of people. We're small enough, we don't have a sexton. We have a cleaning service that comes in once a week, but just having people knowing names like who's going to do the yard work, who's going to do the snow plowing. That was my biggest fear this year, was we had nobody who, because we haven't had any snow down here for a few years, and we hadn't had to have the parking lot plowed. But who was I going to call at the last minute to get the parking lot plowed before Sunday service? So, you know, I've just tried to, the electricians and the heating and air people who we had. So I've tried to keep a list of the people that we've had working for us. So at least the junior warden person would have access to that kind of information. As far as what my role has been and what I've done, I haven't made any notes, but I could soon compile, I think, what I've done.
That is something that we're working on the diocesan office as well. We always say, well, in case I'm hit by a bus,
Yes, yeah.
you would need to know how to do blah, blah, blah. And
Well, yeah.
it's real hard when you jump into something or are elected or appointed, and you just start rolling with it.
Right.
To keep track of what you do, you know, like, well, it's just the work to be done. I need to just do it. And to keep record of that sometimes is helpful, especially for future reference. So Gordon, I know that you have a situation where you have a staff. So there's a staff there that would deal with, at least for instance, like who does the air conditioning and, you know, those kinds of things. So you kind of have an advantage, I feel, I hope.
There's no question about that, Emily. We have a huge advantage because you have a larger congregation and people that are anxious to do work and do work in the community where we are. And that's why I think it's just such a great church. On succession, though, on your specific question about succession, at St. Paul's, and I'm not knowledgeable about the rest of the diocese, the senior warden is appointed by the rector. And so that's the rector's call. And we have a new rector who's just going to have his first anniversary, I guess, in a couple of months. And so he and I talk, and we've discussed this in part already. And it's something that is his call once we decide, or he decides. And so that'll be the situation with regard to the senior warden, since I'll be termed out. With regard to other positions or other works, we don't have a succession plan, but it's a specific succession plan. But, you know, I think of buildings and grounds and the fact that we're so blessed with the person that's doing it right now. And I know in past decades, there have been other people that just, it fit right in because it was something that they were doing in their job or that they were very knowledgeable about. That is an important thing. And I've learned that he may be moving at some point to Arizona in a few years. And so I'm already concerned about that. But as far as, you know, I'm just thinking of other succession issues, and hopefully we keep good enough records and have, good enough minutes that we have things people can go back and look at. I think about our treasurer, if he got hit by the truck. We have vestry members on the finance committee, and one of them's a retired economist, and we have them in other places. So if you're fortunate enough to have committees, and you can have people on those committees that probably could, even if it's just temporary, take over for the position of a chairperson, you'd be very fortunate. So you might think about that too, but we have no formal succession plans on any of these positions.
Okay. How about you, Regina?
One priest I know was fond of saying, if you want to make God laugh, show him your plan.
Okay,
We don't,
okay.
we don't have succession plans. I'm a bit wary. Let me tell you a cautionary tale. One of our key people, head of the finance committee, wizard with building and grounds, did a lot of work. His wife was very, very active in the Sunday school. And last October, at the age of 70, he was playing ice hockey. He took a hard fall and he is paralyzed.
Oh, boy.
Yes, he's in a high-powered wheelchair. We haven't seen him since. He's still going through therapy. He's going through all kinds of issues. And naturally, the two of them are just, 100% engaged in getting him to his maximum level of improvement. So, you can have a succession plan of, well, if so-and-so resigns as treasurer, we got this other person, but people move, people's circumstances change. But what it does bring home to me is the idea that we do need a record of who you call for the air conditioning, who checks the sprinkler system backflow valves, all that stuff, who
Right.
doesn't do a good job. And we also need to make sure that everyone is engaged in something. So you can get an idea of what their skills are, how dedicated they are, how available they are. So if you are in a position where you need to have another vestry member or whatever, you have a good idea who might be a good candidate.
Very much so.
I can
that
add,
hockey-
Emily, can I add one more thing? Yeah,
Sure.
just because of what Regina says, I'm back to be prepared for the unexpected, because I think
Right.
that happens. You're hearing it, I think, from all three of us. And, even though we don't have a specific succession plan, we're blessed here because we have a parish administrator. So it's a different situation. And also, once there's a new senior warden, I intend to, when I became senior warden, I talked to the current senior warden and learned some things, but I intend to try and sit down with the next senior warden right away, God willing, and then tell him, here's, all that I was doing here. I'm here whenever you need me.
Absolutely. And I really personally feel that in a transition, that's, if possible, that's the most important thing you can do is to say, even if we don't have everything written down, I'm still here and I'm available for questions. We just had a transition in the diocesan office where we have a new events coordinator. Yay. Can I just say that? Because I was doing that too. But that's kind of our piece, is that the previous events coordinator isn't necessarily here working for us anymore, but she said, hey, if you guys run into something, just call me. I'm happy to help. And that is a great burden off of our shoulders, that if, you need that backstory, that person's available. It's really beneficial. My next,
I just have one comment to make there. As Regina said, as long as Gordon isn't burnt out by the time he leaves office. Several years ago, I guess right after I first came to St. Mark's, we experienced several bishops wardens, and after their term was over, they totally disappeared. We don't even know if they're still living in the city. I mean, it was just like they had done their deal and boy, they were out of there.
Man,
So,
that's rough.
that's a sad situation, but that does happen sometimes if people really get burnt out on the position.
That's so true. That is. My next questions, I'm going to go ahead and for a moment, and I think I can do this on the fly, is I'm going to remove the spotlight here because I want to know from, kind of open this up for everybody now. I would just like to know who we have on here, and I got to change my view. I want to see gallery. There we go. Even just as by a raise of hands, if you are the warden in charge, meaning you don't have a clergy person on site. So anybody? Okay. Lee. I feel like we, as a diocesan office, especially when you're thrust into that position, like Gordon, when your clergy person retires, we're kind of learning on how well the diocesan office communicates with our churches, and sometimes how well we don't. And so one of those pieces that I don't know that we've been super strong at is, for instance, when you are the warden in charge, or when you are suddenly become the warden in charge, are you aware that the emails that you get from the diocesan office, 9 times out of 10, especially the new spirit update, are to be shared with your congregation? And does anybody know if your clergy in charge does that?
Yes, mine does.
Great. How about Bill? Does David's usually pretty good about sharing.
Yeah, he encourages everybody to subscribe to the Spirit, and I think just about all the parishioners do. And he's very good at pushing information to the vestry that comes from the diocese. He's encouraged everybody to follow Bishop Bruce, whether on Facebook or with the email. So it comes out. Now I'm going to be out. I'm going to be the warden in charge in 3 months when Father David
Yes, you are. That's why I
retires.
was pointing you out.
I did this for 4 months after Ron Keel retired in 2015. And it's, you answering the phone calls, answering the mail, answering the emails, distributing things. It becomes, fortunately, I had just retired and suddenly everybody was calling me Father Bill.
You got a full-time job and didn't
because
realize.
suddenly I had to be there for 2 or 3 hours every day at the church and be there to pick up UPS deliveries and answer the phone or the messages or whatever. So it suddenly becomes a whole nother level of a job when that happens. Yeah.
It does. And so that, to me, that's an integral piece. Having been in communications, especially that new Spirit update. If you personally aren't getting that from your clergy in charge, I encourage everybody to go out and subscribe, because that's where a lot of the information, I mean, it should be 99% of the information that you as parish leaders need to know and need to share with your people. Recently, we have included all of our wardens in charge, at least for Bishop Bruce sends out something monthly called From the Mission Field. And those are in pieces that kind of just a commentary on her part. But sometimes we include some really integral pieces in that as well. So we do try to condense what we send, but when I send an email to the warden in charge, especially, for instance, needing a slate of delegates, or hey, your lay licenses are about to expire, those things, unfortunately, without a clergy person in charge, those become yours. And so even for those with clergy, if something were to happen to your clergy, just kind of have it in the back of your mind that if you begin to get emails from probably me saying, hi, I need this. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. And that's a piece that I'm going to put this in the chat window, just to make sure you guys know, we as a diocesan staff, we're here for you. Without all of you and the parishioners in your church, I don't have a job. And so I love what I do, and I love supporting all of you and the churches that you serve. And so that contact us has real brief information about what each of us does in the diocesan office as far as who to reach out to. And I will also tell you that if, as a warden, you need something and you're not sure which person to contact, you contact any of us, because we are going to help you if we can. And if we can't, we're absolutely going to connect you with the person that can help you. So, because we're here to help make your job easier, if at all possible. So I always want to throw that out there. Just remember that we're here for you. So my last question is, again, kind of for everybody. Do you feel that you would like to meet with other wardens to discuss, and to me, I feel like it would probably be split into bishops' wardens and senior wardens. Do you feel a chat every 6 months or every quarter to discuss things that are going on in your church, like a warden support group? Do you feel like that is something you would want to take advantage of, or your vestry and your bishops committee is working really well and you don't really need that? And I'm just gonna go around to each of you. I don't mind. So Tish, do you feel like that's something?
I maybe would like to do it once in a while. I don't think I would want to do it quarterly.
Mhm.
Maybe once every 6 months, but I feel like basically our bishops committee is functioning well. I think our communication with Anne or between Anne and us is very good, but I will emphasize, I really do appreciate the help that you all in Kansas City have given us. And I think this idea of doing these meetings like this, maybe not quite once a week, but once a month or so, to have one of these meetings. I've tried to be available to all of them, and I've, some of it's repeat stuff, but I usually always at least find one point that is something new and helpful for me. So continue to do this kind of Zoom meeting is wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, that was our hope, is to kind of knock them out in succession, and then get them all up on the web, so that if you say, oh yeah, I went to that human resources leadership essential and they said something about that, I want to refer back to that because I have a question.
Right.
Hopefully those will be resources that will be available all the time, as opposed to when we used to have bishops days with vestry and wardens, and you came in and you got all this information thrown at you in a day, and
Right.
everybody went home tired and exhausted and went, what did I?
But
what was that?
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So, Gordon, do you feel like meeting regularly would benefit you, or y'all are good?
6 years ago is what I'm remembering now that you asked the question, and I'd almost forgotten about it if you hadn't asked the question. But and I don't know who initiated it, whether it was the treasurer or the senior warden at St. Andrews or the cathedral. But I got early on some email or something where it said, we'd like to meet with your treasurer and you. And so we ended up, the 6 of us, having several meetings, either a breakfast or a lunch, and talked about a number of issues. I was a rookie. I didn't know what I was doing. So it was all interesting to me. Hindsight, I don't know, because things changed so much,
Right.
the next couple of years. And there's a lot of things that we're busy on, but getting together, and again, now, I mean, if someone becomes a senior warden, I'd be happy to talk to them about things that I learned over the time, but I don't know. I'd have to experience it some more. The meetings I was talking about with the 3 churches here in Kansas City, they lasted, I don't know, maybe 6-8 months. And then basically that was the end of whatever we were doing.
Absolutely. Lee, do you feel like a kind of a group visit every once in a while would be helpful?
Yeah, I think excuse me, I'm with Tish. I think every 6 months would be fine. So we've got a unique position, as you're well aware, that Mother Paula retired due to health reasons. So Mother Angie Therakan is our supply priest on a very regular basis, but she's got a full-time job obviously now, so I'm not going to be able to convince her to be our priest, but she's there every week. So that's a benefit. So basically 3 of us run the church per se, the Shalines and myself, and we just cover everything basically that needs to be done. And fully engaged bishops committee. And I asked Mother Angie to attend those, even though she doesn't have a vote, she still attends. And that way she's cognizant of what we're doing in the church.
That's
So
helpful.
every 6 months would be beneficial, I think.
Okay. Bill, what's your vote?
I would find it useful to, on a quarterly or even more frequent, well, a quarterly basis, to have senior wardens and junior wardens on a Zoom session where we talk about practical issues. For example, I would love to know how other churches throughout the diocese handle security, everything from locks on the doors to cameras to armed guards. Just a bowl session on that. I always joke that half of Blue Springs, literally half of Blue Springs, has a key to our doors.
Oh my.
So if you're trying to get control of our keys, you're going to have to change the locks. But it's, I know there are churches that have fancy electronic locks and perhaps even key cards and all sorts of cool things. I would love to know what other solutions are out there. I would love to talk about supply priests, the list of them, and how you handle pastoral care when you're dealing with a supply situation, especially during in between rectors. There's a lot of practical things. I think it would be interesting to just very informally discuss, hey, how do you guys handle this?
Mhm.
And just one or two topics, maybe even only a half hour. So I guess that's the way I feel about it, because there's a lot of times when something comes up at our church and I think, well, what's everybody else doing? And
Why reinvent the wheel?
well, right. Or at least why do it wrong when somebody else has a better idea?
That too.
And when we did the bishop's days with the vestries, we didn't really get into that sort of practical level of stuff.
Very true. Very true.
So I find it very interesting to hear how other churches deal with how do you mow your yard? If we had people willing to mow our yard for free, we'd have to have a lawnmower. If we had a lawnmower in our backyard, it'd be stolen in a week.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'd love to know how other people deal with it. Just practical things, I guess, is my issue.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the thought process is, just to get together and say, well, what do you do for this? And, oh, we do this. As a bishop's secretary, I am part of a group called, and I always have to do my fingers, so Bishops Executive Secretaries Together. And we have a chat board for all the diocesan secretaries who, when we come across something, when we don't know how to do it, we post it up on that chat board and say, gosh, I've got to do a letter of release. I've never done that. How do I do this? And it gives us an opportunity to help one another. And so that's kind of what we were thinking about is, would you benefit from, even an email group or regular face-to-face or regular Zooms just to kind of chat about those kind of things. So Regina, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think regular Zoom, maybe every 4 to 6 months. I've already gotten some ideas that I'm taking away from here, and some thoughts. Like our priest, Father Larry, is 71. He has made it clear he's not going to keep doing this forever, and at some point, with maybe a year's advance notice, he's going to retire. And I'm thinking, oh no, what are we going to do when we get these calls to the church house? Hi, you don't know me. I'm not a parishioner. I'm behind on my rent. I need help. Can you please give me money? And that's going to go to the senior warden. What in the heck do you do? So yeah, I like the idea of regular Zoom meetings and possibly structured around certain topics like security, building and grounds, et cetera.
Great, thank you.
Emily,
David. Yes,
you,
Gordon.
yeah, all this conversation raises other thoughts in my head that I think are hopefully beneficial, that maybe if you had, I don't know if it's through the diocese or whatever, but if there was an email group of either senior wardens and bishops wardens, where if somebody had a question, they could throw it out to the group.
Mhm.
And I'd be more than happy to read them and say, here's where it's from. And hey, I can help her. Sorry, I can't help you at all on that one.
That's good for the more immediate problems.
Right.
It really is. Like I said, I find that my little chat group amazing to ask questions, and then it kind of makes me go, every once in a while I can answer a question, I can help somebody, and that feels really great too. So that's lovely. David, how about you? Do you feel like meeting would be helpful?
I do. I think maybe once every 6 months or so. I'm also on the council, and at our joint meeting with the standing committee back in February, one of the things that came out of that is, since we're such a far-flung diocese, communication is very important. And I think it's very helpful. Groups like this, we need to know who the other parishes are. So I think in that regard, it's very helpful.
Great, thank you. Rebecca, what are your thoughts? Oh, your mic, you unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Well, let me try something.
I could kind of hear you there.
Okay, yeah, I think every 6 months would be a good idea. Listening to everybody. This is the first time I've been Bishop's Warden. When I was asked to do it, I said, this is what the Bishop's Warden back in the day when we were much larger, the senior warden, we had a senior warden and junior warden. And the senior warden was in charge of plumbing, electrical, everything. And I'm like, I can't do that. He said, no, you're not going to do that. I said, okay. Well, then I'm happy he explained everything to me, and we have a great, great working relationship. So I would, I would think I would benefit also.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Dan, hello. How about you? Do you feel like some more regular communication between wardens would be beneficial?
Yeah, definitely. I'm the new guy on the block without much idea about at all what's going on or how to handle things. And yes,
And remind me, what church are you from?
St. Thomas of Becket,
That's right. Thank you.
down just almost Arkansasers.
Almost. Okay, great. Thank you. And Nancy, I know you don't have video, but I'm not sure if you have a mic. You do. And I'm sorry, I can't hear you if you're speaking. Well, we'll give you a minute. But overall, I feel like it definitely sounds like this is something that I'm going to go back to the diocesan staff and say, I feel like this would help. And so I will go back and we will try to formulate a plan to help foster. In the old days, when before I even knew what the diocesan office was, honest to goodness, I worked for our church for that long and I didn't really know what the diocesan office was. And so now we are trying more and more to consider ourselves one diocese instead of, 47 different churches. And so that's the other reason that getting together in groups of like-minded, same job individuals, that's why it would help. Again, we're all in this together. And if what they're doing at St. Andrews could help what they're doing at St. Thomas of Becket, why not share it and help? So I am going to take this information. I made notes while we all chatted. And again, this was recorded, so I appreciate it. I do want to take one moment because I wanted to keep this to an hour if we could, but we still have 7 or so minutes. Does anyone have questions, comments? We call them, oh, by the ways in staff meeting. Anybody have an, oh, by the way that you'd like to share or ask? Doesn't look like.
I have one comment. I think it was spoken to earlier regarding a clerk of the vestry. For 15 years, we had one of our vestry members. We selected a vestry member to be the clerk. It became much better when we disassociated the job of clerk from the vestry members. And when we always have a clerk now who is not a vestry member and is just responsible for taking notes and minutes. And that has worked much better, just because it frees people up to participate in the vestry meeting instead of taking minutes.
That's interesting.
Another odd thing, for many years, we had one of the assignments of vestry members was to do counting duty, count the offerings every Sunday. We had two vestry members on a rotating basis do the counting. Well, I suddenly realized 15 years ago that we were unable to recruit some people to be on the vestry because they're uncomfortable seeing checks from fellow parishioners. And even though I would say, you don't know if this check is their once a year check or their once a week check, but still they're uncomfortable with that aspect. So we disassociated counting duty from the vestry also. So now the vestry members can be a little more lazy, but still it makes it more of a spiritual focus instead of counting duty. That's all.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, I want to especially thank Regina and Tish and Gordon for being my sounding blocks, because I've never been a warden. And so when I said, hey, would you offer to answer some questions? I really appreciate that you took your time to do that. And as well as everybody else who attended. Your opinions, your questions, your thoughts are so, so vital to knowing how we can help and moving forward as a diocese. So
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, this was really
As
helpful.
somebody who is way outside of things, Emily, I appreciate the feeling, the distinct feeling that I've gotten that I can call you when I got a problem.
all the time.
And thank you.
You're so welcome. All right. And so with that, I wish you all a wonderful evening and a little forward thinking. Have a great weekend too.
Congratulations on your new baby.
Thank you. It's a grandbaby.
Grandbaby, yeah. I'm sorry. I should have said that.
I mean, it's possible, but no, thank you. All right, everybody. Have a
Thanks.
great night.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You
Night.
bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.